What's up, everybody? This is Joey Gass from Underdog Training Systems. Don't know why I'm so amped up, but man, I'm feeling good today. Ready to start the new week come tomorrow, Monday. New goals. Thanksgiving is Thursday, so I'm getting ready to smash some food. But before we get to all that fun and that food, I want to bring to you guys episode 3 of Fat Loss 101, talking about carbohydrate and fat intake when you're trying to optimize your fat loss goals. So recently it seems like low or no carb diets have gained a lot of popularity, and a lot of this has to do with the huge initial weight loss that you might see when you switch to a low or no carb diet. And this weight loss doesn't necessarily equal fat loss, and I think that's important to point out. Just to sum it up, the more carbohydrates that you are holding, you're storing that as glycogen. You store that in your liver and your muscles. And the more glycogen that your body is storing, the more water weight you will also store. So as you lose that glycogen from not replenishing those carbohydrates from eating a low or no carb diet, you also lose a lot of water weight with it. So you might see somebody go on a low or no carb diet, and within the first week they might end up losing over 5 pounds. And initially they'll think a lot of this is fat loss because they'll look a lot smaller. A lot of it will just be glycogen loss, and then, like I said, with the water weight that you're losing, you're going to feel probably less bloated. So that gives you that misconception that you are burning a lot of fat initially when you switch over. But as time goes on, that weight loss, once you lose all of that glycogen and all that water weight, the weight loss just tends to decrease. So you might lose 5 pounds the first week. Second week you might lose 2 pounds, and then third week you might lose 1 pound, and then fourth week a half a pound, and so on. And it's not that the rate of fat loss is changing or decreasing, it's just the rate of actual weight loss, because your body mass isn't changing as much. So that's one thing that is a little more appealing for a low or no carb diet to beginners, so somebody first starting out their weight loss journey, is because they're seeing that scale move very quickly, and that is just a form of positive reinforcement, and then they see that scale move and then they just want to continue on that pattern. It's motivating when you start on a new goal like this and you start to see progress right away. But I think the main goal for everybody who is in a weight loss phase isn't necessarily weight to lose, unless you're trying to cover some type of competition where they have weight classes. It should be based on how much actual body fat you're losing. And to touch on the opposite end of the spectrum, if you are eating a very high carb diet, you might see a lot more fluctuations in your body weight. So let's say if I'm eating about 300 carbs per day, and let's say 4 out of the 7 days of the week I'm eating 200 carbs within the first half of my day, and then the last half of my day I finished off with about 100 carbs in between my meals. So if I'm doing that 4 out of the 7 days of the week, and then the other 3 days out of the 7 days of the week, because of my schedule, just because of my eating patterns, maybe I'm going out with friends and I want to save a bunch of my carbs for my dinner that night, and I end up eating within the last 2/3 of my day 200 grams of carbs, I'm probably going to have a lot more water retention with those grams of carbs, and then I'm going to wake up heavier, and that can also take a toll on people mentally when they aren't really understanding the process that's going on, and they think like, oh my gosh, I ate way too many calories yesterday, I gained 3 pounds of body fat, which definitely isn't the case unless you are severely binging. It's basically just water weight that you're holding and extra glycogen that your body isn't used to holding. So your weigh-ins might be a little more consistent with a low or no carb diet, but that doesn't mean that your fat loss is more consistent. So which one is going to be more beneficial for you for your fat loss goals? And the simple answer, in the long term, doesn't really matter. So it seems like the initial extra weight loss that you're getting in the beginning of a low or no carb diet seems to balance out in the long run with a high carb diet. And also you want to pay attention to fat loss, not necessarily weight loss. So if somebody is restricting their carbs, a lot of times their workouts aren't going to be very great unless they are used to working out without very many carbs in their system. And when your workouts are suffering, that could lead to you losing strength, not lifting the same amount of weight that you normally do, so you're not doing the same amount of weights, reps, and total sets as what you would if you were eating more carbs. And then that over time can lead you to losing more muscle mass than if you were hitting those weights, reps, and sets. So performance is a big one. Performance usually takes a hit with people, especially when they are first switching to a low or no carb diet. So that's just one thing to keep in mind if you are thinking about switching, is that If you are going low carb, not necessarily no carb, I definitely would plan your carbohydrates around your workouts. That way you could try to maximize your performance in the gym. Because with higher performance, you're going to have more lean body mass retention, basically. And another factor that can play into being on a low or no carb diet versus a higher carb diet is just adherence. Most of the foods that we tend to eat are higher carb, so cutting out all of those carbs can be really hard on somebody who's used to eating a high carb diet. And then if they do so, they might end up binging on the weekends or just giving up because it's just simply too hard for them to restrict the entire macronutrient from their diet. And really, no matter how well a diet works, it's not going to work unless you are able to stick with it. So if you aren't able to stick with a low or no carb diet, or maybe even a higher carb diet, then you can go somewhere in the middle, somewhere with a moderate carb to moderate fat diet. So adherence is the #1 factor in your success with your fat loss. So find what suits you best, what gets you the best results, and what you can stick to in the long run. So I hope this video helped you guys out, and I'll see you guys in the next one.